Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to the pilot episode, the inaugural, the first episode of Keeneland Today. You see myself. I got myself, Pete Visco, as your host today. We got Paul Halloran next to me, shocked that we're doing Keeneland Today, and me and him are kicking it off. This is sort of an offshoot, a derivative of the Saratoga Today, which was really successful for us. We got some great viewership. We had, between the Saratoga Power Picks and the Saratoga Today show, I think it was just a new direction for us. And now we're going to keep it going with Keeneland. So for anyone who's either new to us or hasn't seen the schedule, we are going to be doing this Keeneland Today show every Saturday and Sunday during the Keeneland meet, 10:30 a.m. And it'll be, any host and any guest host from either the HHH flagship show or Betting and Boozing. So today, like myself and Paul. Paul, how's it going today?
I just did, they have the amber alerts for the little kids, and then they have the silver alerts for the older people. Someone just put out a silver alert on Howard Kravitz.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they're looking for him. They think that he's been abducted and he's might be in an airplane somewhere.
I mean, hopefully they find him, but if they don't, the show must go on, right? What are we going to do?
Wally Pip
as usual. It's not the first time we had to pip Howard on this show. So, and then tomorrow, just so I mentioned before I forget later, tomorrow we'll have another one of these. It'll be myself hosting with Charlie Freeman from Betting and Boozing, and we will be covering the late pick 5 from Keeneland tomorrow. Today, Paul and I are going to be covering the early pick 5 because we already covered, in case you missed it and you want to check it out last minute, on Thursday's flagship show, me, Paul, Howard, and Caleb Keller from FanDuel, we covered the late pick 5 at Keeneland from today. So we're going to have the whole card covered. And then before we get into it, we're going to talk some stuff about the Keeneland Power Picks, and we're going to get into a little bit of detail about yesterday. Let's hit some of the administrative items. As you can see on the bottom of the screen, please, if you're watching now and you haven't yet, subscribe to the show. Make sure you know when all the episodes are coming. Hit that like button. It lets YouTube know that you like our show and we're one that you want to watch, and it should be in the algorithm. And then also hit that notification bell, especially with Breeders' Cup coming up and with things like this Keeneland Today show. We have ad hoc shows that aren't our normal Wednesday, Thursday. So if you hit the notification bell, it'll just let you know when a new show pops up, and you won't miss anything. And if you want, especially if you want to join the live chat, then it's nice to know when a new one comes up. For any audio listeners, please listen, subscribe, rate, review on wherever you listen, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Anchor, wherever you get your podcasts. On social media, follow the HHH Racing Podcast feed on Twitter. I always say Twitter instead of X, at H Kravitz. And then Paul's and myself's Twitter handles will be in our little note and our little name tag. And then follow us. We're newly on Instagram. You could see Instagram.com/HHH Racing Podcast. Very new, not a ton of posts yet, but Noah Maher from our Betting and Boozing show. He is sort of managing and taking care of and hopefully posting some good things on Instagram. So take a look and subscribe or like. I forget what you actually wind up having to do on Instagram. Also, we have our website, hhhracingpodcast.com. It contains all kinds of stuff, podcasts, power pick information, links to all our shows if you want to see them all in one place, fantastic articles from my co-host here from the Saratoga Special. There's plenty of past ones on there if you want to check those out. So please check out the website. There's tons of good information managed by me. So obviously it's awesome. Now, don't laugh, Paul. Now we have our power picks. These are our normal power picks. So basically every Saturday, most likely on Saturdays, every once in a while you get a Sunday in there, but every Saturday you get 2 tracks, you get statistics, you get spot plays, price plays, you get ABC grids, you get a whole host of things, $15.99 a month. So basically like $4 a weekend, very cheap, had been profitable. So check it out. If you want to subscribe, there's a link to Patreon beneath the video player, or if you go to our website on the Power Picks page, there's links and information there. And like I said, you could see examples of past ones if you want to get a feel for the type of information that we include. As I mentioned, the Keeneland only Power Picks. These are new, and this is what we did for Saratoga, where we're produced. So basically for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we do full Power Picks. And it's got ABC grids for the full card. It's got price and spot plays. It has the $3 pick three ABC grid and analysis. And it also has just if you have some other bets. So Paul, myself, and Howard will do them each weekend. Yesterday, Paul did his, and we're going to talk about those in a minute. The full meat Power Picks are done. That was only for if you subscribed by Thursday of last week or this current week. But we have weekend only Power Picks, $15 for the weekend. Like I said, $5 a day. You get all 3 days. You sign up. The new week will start on Monday, and you have to sign up between Monday and Thursday at midnight. You go to our website. There's a Power Picks page. There's a link there. It's basically via PayPal. So you just click the PayPal button, and you'll be subscribed, and you'll receive those via email. So definitely check them out if you're interested in the Keeneland Power Picks. And you do have to sign up each weekend. So over the next 2 weekends of the meet, you'd have to sign up this week for next weekend, and then the week after that for the following weekend. Last thing, like I mentioned, next show is Keeneland Today, tomorrow. Keeneland Today, tomorrow, Sunday, October 8th, 10:30 a.m., myself and Charlie Freeman. Please join us in the chat. So now that I've blathered on for a bit, let's see real quick who's here joining us this morning. We had Bill Kelly. Good luck to all. Looks like rain starting at 11 a.m. at Aqueduct. So shocking, Paul, that there's some rain in the New York area.
Yeah, I'm looking out my window here in the suburbs of Boston, and it's looking ominous. I think Aqueduct is going to have a little bit of a window. And if you look at their card, Pete, they made the Joe Hirsch the 4th race.
Yeah.
And I think that's for a reason. I'm going to look at it right now. I don't think it's a particularly short field that they wanted to keep it out of the there's 8 horses. So it wasn't like they were trying to keep it out of the late pick 5 or the pick 6. I think they're going to have a window of, maybe like 11 to 1 or 2. That race is supposed to go at 140. They do have turf later in the card, but, the Turf Classic, this they really, really want to get in. This is already postponed a week. You got Euros that have been here. So I think they're going to do everything they can to at least get that race in on the turf.
And you're right, because a lot of these horses and a lot of these stakes races, this is sort of the last run before the Breeders' Cup. So you don't want to screw around with horses' Breeders' Cup preparation schedule. So, I mean,
this week is about it, Pete. We're at a month. So we're at 4 weeks.
This is it. I mean, when are you?
Katie in the chat says they are going ahead with the Joe Hirsch. So that's what.
That is fantastic to hear.
Good.
All right,
I like it when Katie agrees with me.
That's much more reliable than us on the show. Good morning to all the paisans everywhere from Phil Conti. We always like to have the Italians in the show. Great pick on the 10. We were just talking about that. That was the horse that I think screwed you a little bit, Paul, was the 10.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? That's the way it goes. I just didn't. That was shame on me for not using a Justify in a turf route.
I mean, yeah, the way he's been going.
You gotta use every one of them.
It's crazy.
Brian himself, Pete. I don't know if you saw it. The ARC broadcast last week. He had a horse win. I think it was the ARC. It was something over there. He had a horse win a turf route, a Justify, and he basically said anything beyond like 7 furlongs, forget it. Lights
on fire, which is funny because he had been struggling early. We got Ray Cromley here. Good morning. You've been away for a while. Phone was stolen on 8/18. Tornado 8/23. We crashed my PC. Ray,
hey, Ray, come on, Ray. This is not 3rd grade where you get a note explaining your absences, Ray. Okay, you go take someone else's PC and watch this show.
Meanwhile, I was going to say, I'm glad to have you back, and I'm glad you're safe. But Paul, we're playing a little good cop, bad cop here for that. We said we got Katie in here. Hey, Howie and friends. I don't know who this Howard is, but we'll forgive you for now. For now, Katie. We got Simon, We got a little bit of everybody in the chat. Oh, let's see. RDW Racing Downwind is here. So, hey, Maiden Focus, his horse just
Good.
FYI.
This is a good turnout, Pete.
I know. This is fantastic. Well, you know what happens when it's just the two of us. So let's talk real quick about yesterday, the Keeneland Power Picks. It was the first day you did them. You want to toot your horn about anything? You want to give a shout to any of the horses that you played or anything that came through?
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, we talked before we went on the air. The picks were good. 10 races. One of the races, I had a single A and a single B, and they both scratched. So we're gonna not count that race.
Yeah.
So 9 races, 5 A's, a B, and 2 C's won the race. Myself, I did not do a good job with my betting, and this is a good conversation to have. Betting at winning at the racetrack is a 2-part equation. Is the handicapping, and there's the ticket construction / betting, and you can make a good argument that you should spend at least as much time on part B as part A, and none of us really do, right? We'll spend 35 minutes on a 2-year-old race like we probably did today, Pete, and then we'll decide in 3 minutes how we're going to play the race.
How we're going to play it. It's my downfall all the time.
As my good friend Brad Anderson was sipping beer and smoking a cigar in North Carolina, texting on how he was feasting on these A selections. I was up here in Boston, 1 race away. But anyway, to the point, as far as the A's, as I said, I had 2 A's in the first. I basically had 2 A's in most of the races. The first 2 races, both A's. The double came back 37-1. Race 5 and 6, both A's. The double came back 35-1. Race 6 and 7, both A's. The double came back 48-1, and that pick 3 of 5, 6, 7, which was 2 by 2 by 2, $8 for $1 comes back 300-1.
Oh my God, that's fantastic!
Okay,
well, that's fantastic if you were cashing them, obviously.
Yeah, well, I should say I should be doing this show with you hungover, and instead I'm just over.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's always an exercise, and I've been at it. I went to my first dog race when I was 16 years old, which is now 44 years ago, and I'm still working on the betting aspect. I'm trying to build off that day at Keeneland last April, Pete, when the one day that I managed to do everything right. We're looking for more of those and less of yesterday. You
can only ride that wave for so long, unfortunately.
Correct. But anyway, so yeah, I thought the picks were good, and last thing I'll say about it, Pete, we all have crap going on. I was trying to get work done yesterday, and then of course 1 o'clock comes, and I'm trying to pay attention to Keeneland.
Yeah.
A lot of times, I know you were there. I'm at Saratoga. I'm running off to cover races and all that. I do much better if I can just kind of sit down and worry about what I'm playing, who I like. Empty room is fine. Oh. Okay. So anyway, but as far as the picks go, our job, we want to try to give people good information.
Yeah.
We'll give you tickets. We're not telling you you have to play those tickets, but more importantly, it's what you do with the information. And I think yesterday there was an opportunity to capitalize on the information. Don't be like the moron who came up with the information. Be like Brad Anderson, who capitalizes on it. And Brad doesn't need my help, by the way. Brad, a former BC champion, he certainly doesn't need my help.
Yeah,
but I think he was happy to have it when it
comes, though. Yeah, I'm sure he takes it when it comes. I could tell you it's funny because half the time on a Saturday, I'm putting bets in like in between while I'm cutting the grass. I jump on my phone like, oh, this race is coming up. So sometimes there's not a lot of thought into the bets aside from all the work we do on the handicapping. So I'm with you 100%. I think a lot of people in the chat are. All right, well, let's get going. We'll get into, like I said, we're going to talk about the early pick 5 at Keeneland today, races 1 through 5. We're not going to give out pick 5 tickets. I didn't mention this at the beginning. Yeah. On this show, on the Keeneland Today show, we're not going to do pick 5 tickets because those are on the power picks. So we want to make sure we save a little something for there. And while you got a good comment, you need me to bring anything up, let me know.
Tom Espinoza. Exactly, Tom.
Yes.
Oh boy. Yes.
It's funny. That's great. But yeah, so we're just going to do basically top three, and we'll talk through each of the races. And like I said, if you want our analysis of the late pick five Thursday show, this past one, it's on YouTube, it's on the website. Definitely check it out. So let me jump in. We'll put up the Equibase. So we're going to start with race one. Race one goes off 1:00 p.m. today, Eastern. And I didn't see any scratches yet. I know Paul and you talked about this earlier. They didn't come out till a little bit later yesterday. If anybody in the chat sees them, or Paul, if you see them, let me know and I can refresh the screen so they could pop up. But race one, we got Claiming 40,000 going 6.5 furlongs on the dirt. We have a field of 8 as of right now. And the morning line favorite, number 6, a la carte, Luis Saez, Bill Mott, one of your favorites there. So our picks on the screen, first time Paul is seeing our combined picks. We are both going with the 6 a la carte. Let's go to the PPs. Paul, why don't you talk about what you like about this 6?
Chris Koupoulis in the chat, Chris Couples, excuse me, tells us that
there we go.
number 2 and 7 are out. So thank you, Chris, and
thank you, Chris.
Keep us going race by race, Pete. Chris, that would be great.
Let me refresh quick and see if they've hit. Well, you can go ahead. You can start talking about.
Yeah, I had the 7/3 as a price. It doesn't affect me. You know, there are many elements to handicapping a race, Pete, and class is only one of them. But boy, do I think this horse has a huge class advantage in this race. Now, some might say, well, they're willing to lose him for $40,000. Well, he's a homebred. It wasn't a horse that they went out and paid $1 million for. They did pay $150 to breed him to Uncle Mo. He's earned about a little over half of that back. But Speedway Stables is a pretty big operation, and frankly, a horse like this is likely to get claimed for $40,000. Is approaching the bottom of the barrel at Keeneland. But I mean, I do look at running lines, Pete, and I only had to go 2 down and saw a Creative. And the Creative gave our guy Cody's Wish all he could handle and then some on Sunday. And, I mean, it was a very smart ride on the Creative. I believe it was IRAD. And frankly, it was, Cody kind of had the race flow against him because he likes to make that big one run that you like, Pete.
I do.
And Junior had to keep him closer. But anyway, even when he hooked the Creative, he pulled off by a couple. But, when he at the spot that he hooked him, he could have pulled off by 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think this horse I love Louis getting on a horse like this because look at his running lines, Pete. His first 3 races, he's on the pace all 3 times.
Yeah.
Then they put him on the turf. Not sure about that. Got some turf breeding, rail at Churchill and a mile. Never throw that one out. Then back to Saratoga, and he was not anywhere. He wasn't on the pace. I won't say he wasn't anywhere near it. But a Creative is a good horse. Pete Durante came back to win. Dafuski Island, who ran second in that race. I mean, we're talking solid allowance/graded stakes type horses. And this is non-winners of 2 lifetime. It's not even an open claiming. It's a conditioned claiming. So I think Louis has this horse forward, very close, not necessarily on the lead, but, right where he wants to be, and takes over at some point and leaves them all behind. That's my...
I agree. Actually, I didn't know if you saw this real quick. I don't know who this person is in the chat, but we could always block them. Hey, it's a pretty damn good show. Who are these guys? Good luck to everyone.
I hope it's not the pilot.
Yeah. It's the flight. I don't know what time it's ready to leave. If the pilot's watching in the cockpit, we're more than happy for that too. The planes fly themselves half the time anyway, so it's no big deal. The one thing on the 6, if he could ever, I don't know how these, you drop from this from a buyer standpoint. If he could ever get back to this, he beats this field by 10 basically. So we'll see. We'll see what he comes back with. So you have in second the number 5 Debate, Thomas Drury, Joel Rosario. What do you like about this one sitting at 3-1 on the morning line?
Yeah, I don't like the price, to be honest with you. And you could make a case that he has run this condition twice in the last 3 races, albeit for much higher purses.
Yeah.
Drury, I think, is an underrated guy. I believe Drury is the guy who had Art Collector before he went to Mott, if I'm not mistaken.
Sounds like it might be right.
I like the 6 a lot, but again, even this horse, it is a bit of a class drop. He's run this condition, but for much higher purses. Ran okay at Keeneland. Bourbon Heist is a pretty good horse. He finished right behind the 6 in that 7 furlong race at Keeneland last April. So
yeah,
for me, he was kind of a best of the rest. Although someone in the chat makes a good point. Take a look at Fan the Fire. This is almost a 2-year layoff for Kerry Bryan. This horse was entered at Laurel on Thursday and scratched.
Oh,
so
yes.
Kerry, who's based at Fair Hill in Maryland, opted not to take the easy ship to Laurel and take the much longer shift to Keeneland. Her numbers, 180 plus, it says 13. I don't know if you did a deep dive on them, Pete. I didn't. I will on this kind of a layoff. But
I did,
Kerry,
and there wasn't anything big that jumped out. I think so.
Yeah.
Usually, if I don't put a stat on there, it usually means that they're sort of average. They're sort of sitting at their average, and they're not deviating too much one way, good or bad. So that my assumption is that because I actually have this one. As I'm glad we're talking about this one, the 8 Fan the Fire. I have this one in second. It's just tough though, right? Because you just never know. I don't care if you're the best trainer in the world. You really have no idea off a 2-year layoff how a horse is going to come back, even if they're working well, which this horse has been working pretty solid. One thing I liked, if you look here, 3 sprint races, 3 sprints, second, a third to Major General, Bourbon Heist, you mentioned. Then they go on another one that goes on the turf in a high level stakes race and runs terrible. Cut back to sprint, breaks the maiden, goes into a 1.16 mile race against Trademark, Red Run, Kevin's Folly. There's horses in there that came back and did some stuff after this, and then was just on the shelf. I don't know exactly what happened, but you figure just on talent alone, and if he can get back to any of these sprint races, it puts him squarely in the mix. And if you're getting him at a price, all the better. Did you have anything else you wanted to add? Sorry, I don't know if I cut you off.
No, I did look her up. Kerry, 1 to 2 year layoffs, 365 to 730 days, 2 for 10. So it's a small sample, but it's still 20%. And of course, this was a Mike Maker horse. Kerry just got this horse. But you talked about that turf race, Pete. That Kentucky Downs race. All that was a $500,000 2-year-old.
That's
race.
what I meant. Yeah, that's a big time. I mean, that's a big time race.
And to put him in that race, first time turf, as a maiden, it's either a show of confidence or what the hell do we have to lose? But pretty aggressive placing, wouldn't you say?
100%. And I mean, and these don't even go back that far. Mostly I'd have to open them up and go back further. But you look at horses. I mean, this was when Tiz the Bomb was actually good and, won the Bourbon next out, then run second to Modern Games in the Breeders' Cup. So yeah, this was a quality field that turned out to be pretty good in the long run. You see no balls on there he's just getting into. This year has been his sort of breakout. So yeah, that was a good race. Odd, like you said, and didn't run well, and took money under 8 to 1. But again, I think there's some talent there, especially sprinting. So we can get back to that. Is there anyone? I know you said you had the 7 who it sounds like is scratching. Is there anyone else you want to point out?
No, I think I think I'm going to be using the 6 in,
Is he a lone A for you? Is he sort of a lone A?
Yeah, he'll be a lone A for me. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I'll just give one quick shout out to Captain Jack, my dad. He bets all Jack's. My son's name is Jackson. He bets all Jack horses, anything with Jack in the name. So he will have some money on Captain Jack. So who actually looks solid. There's, like you said, there's a lot of horses in here who are sort of dropping into this company. And
he is dropping. Yeah, he's 7-2 morning line, Pete. So
yeah,
third choice. Yeah.
And it's after the layoff. It's weird because this one just sort of regressed. Was in that same company at Keeneland, then went to Ellis, and the last two have been disappointing, especially two back at when it said 7-2, but that was in the mud, so you don't know. But again, these are all horses who, with a little bit of a drop down, if they recapture some older form, I think any of them quit. I think if it's not the 6, it's kind of wide open. So if nothing else there, let's move on. We'll go to the second race. We have a maiden special weight, 6 furlongs, purse 100,000. Again, if anybody, let me give a quick refresh here. We do have some scratches now. So here we have the 12. Let me bring up our banners to see if it affects any of ours. So we both have the 1, 3, 7 who are all still in this race. It looks like the 12, the 14, and the 15, and the 13. Was the 13 an AE? I don't remember if the 13 was an AE. Getting
so
in.
The horses that are out are 12, 14, and 15.
15, yeah. I didn't know if the 13 was an AE.
13 was an AE, yes.
Okay. So with the 13 in now, because I didn't look at the AEs specifically for the picks, but it's a Cox Pratt horse at 9-2.
Yeah, be careful. Pete Bergen, you're a Jersey guy, right?
I know,
Bergen
County for sure. So the favorite, very lukewarm. I mean, this is a fantastic betting race. The 1, Linzer, at 4-1. So very lukewarm. We have a 4-1, a couple 9-2s, Rosario and Stidham. Let's take a look. You are going with, we're both, it's funny, I think we have a bunch of the same top picks, or at least the first 3. We have the same top picks. You're going with the 3, Know Who You Are, Cowens, Archer. What do you like about this one on top?
I thought there were 2 horses, Pete, that have, and you're the real, I'm a stats guy, you're a real stats guy. I thought there were 2 horses in this race who had really good statistical angles, and I haven't read your stats of the day, so you likely have these, but 2-year-olds, second-time starters in dirt sprints. Cowens on the 3, 29%, and Brett Calhoun on the 7, 25%.
Nice.
I thought those are significant stats. That is the biggest opportunity for improvement. Typically, is from start 1 to start 2, and it is worth noting. Trainers, and I actually found these 2 fairly hard to separate. I threw the 1 in the middle. The 1's been kind of been a money burner in his first 2 starts. He was expected to win at Delaware and did not, and then he was a heavy favorite at Colonial and did not, though he is cutting back a furlong here. But so I was torn between the 3 and the 7 on top. I ended up with the 3, and as I say, mainly based on the fact that I think it looks as if he's going to take a big jump forward.
Yeah, I don't necessarily show the replay, but if you want to check it out, I thought he had some run in the debut, and people could see my scribble notes in here, but I thought he had some run, but then he got knocked around pretty good, and it sort of stunted whatever closing kick he had, but he still ran on afterwards, which you always like to see, especially with a first-time starter. I mean, usually if they have some trouble sometimes in their first one, a lot of times they just pack it in. He didn't. He kept running on. And you said some stats. Cowens, 5 for 13 wins, 10 for 13 in the money, 2-year-olds in maiden special weight dirt sprints, and that excludes first-time starters, so not first-time out. And then 29%, 66% in the money if you include first-time starters. So just from a maiden special weight dirt sprint standpoint, this is a little bit where he eats, it seems like. So I like this horse. If we can get 9-2 on this one, I think we'll be pretty happy. You mentioned the 7, Honky Tonk Highway, 10-1 shot, Calhoun, your boy Ray Lou. I'm sure that had a little something to do with it. What'd you like about this one?
Yeah, well, really, the kind of the same angle. Calhoun really moves them up. This horse got way behind in his first race, and what was best of the rest, but wasn't close to. He was 6 1/4 off, but they didn't really have to kill himself. He was 15-1, didn't take much action, which is not a great sign. But he's a $180,000 yearling.
Yeah.
His City of Light is doing okay.
City of Light's
and as I say, Calhoun moves him up, and I know our guy Maiden focuses on the Bergen issue here, but one thing I will tell you that Brad Cox with 2-year-old maiden first-time starters in dirt sprints is 19%. So
which
that's a good start.
it's a good, yeah, it's not bad. I mean, it's less than his
Yeah, for
normal.
him, it's probably a little below.
That's what's
He's
funny
so
is
good.
people would kill for that just as they're, and he's got that. That's sort of a downturn for him. Yeah, the one thing I liked here, and we see Alder, this horse here, who basically was a non-starter in the debut and then wins by 6. We're going to talk about this horse because he's the favorite in the 5th race today and looks pretty strong. So if Honky Tonk Highway runs pretty well here, then that even flatters Alder in the 5th even more. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. One other quick thing on City of Light, 19% wins with 2-year-olds and in dirt sprints. So you always like to see that. And like you said, Calhoun has some pretty good stats. Raylu stays up again, which we like. Raylu is usually pretty aggressive. Maybe we can get this horse a little bit closer this time, so as to stay a little bit more in contact. We both, unless you have anything else on the 7, I'm going to move to the 1 because we both have the 1 as well. The 1, Linzer, as we mentioned, Stidham and Rosario, a soft 4-1 favorite. Blinkers off after 2 second-place finishes, one to Nutella Fella, who came back and won the Hopeful, and then the winner of the last one, Patriot Spirit, actually came back and ran in the Iroquois, set the pace, was 3-1, or no, set the pace, and then, not Patriot Spirit, I'm sorry, but set the pace and then faded. So this horse has been in some quality made in special weights. Now we're taking the blinkers off, where Stidham 5 for 19, 13 for 19 in the money, blinkers off and made in special weights. So it's a move that he sort of likes. What do you like about this one? Do you think this one's a win contender, or is it just more of an underneath play for you, seconditis a little bit?
I mean, I think he's a contender. I would not be playing him to win. You can't ignore the amount of money that this horse has torched in the first 2 starts.
Yeah.
And another concern I would have is he's been on the lead both times. Obviously, it looks like they're trying to do something different. And the combination of blinkers off and Rosario on, they will do something different, I think. So if you play this horse and he's 6th early, don't be alarmed. That might be the plan.
Yeah.
I just, but the big but, Pete, from down on the rail, that complicates that strategy as well. So there's a lot of it. I'm going to be interested to see how this race is bet, because he looks like lower than a 2-1 shot, a 4-1 shot on paper. But, Nick Tamaro is great at what he does, number 1. And although I'm going to say, Pete, I would predict this one's going to be a little lower than that.
Well, I mean, you look at it and people like 2nd place. I mean, it's better than some of the others, which, that carries some weight. Has the rail, it's Godolphin, Rosario, has Nutella Fella in here, has, there's horses that people know from stakes races in the past performances. So that's just enough sometimes to, again, unless you fear that, hey, this horse just doesn't have a nose for the win end, which is always our worry when they start out with the seconds. But I agree with you. I think that one should take a little bit of money. I think because the three doesn't, who we both like, the 3 doesn't jump out. The connections aren't like super, they're not super well-known connections. So that doesn't necessarily jump out. We both like Honky Tonk Highway. I think that one's going to stay a little bit of a price. Is there anyone else in here you considered? Let me look at mine. I have at the top. I had 1, 3, 6, 7. So I had the 6 Gallant Mischief as a potential, as sort of an A level. You see here, August 30th, 3 straight bullets, then another 48, 3 out of 10. So is working extremely well. Dam side 0 for 8 with 2-year-olds, but 5 for 8 in the money. 1 for 12 with dirt sprints on the dam side. Cassie, 13% first-time starters at this level. So, but $480,000 purchase, pay $250 to breed. This one, 10-1, it on paper doesn't look that bad, but the 10-1 morning line says to me that there's not a lot of buzz probably about this horse.
Well, that's why you could watch the board and you could actually even in the first race watch the double probables. Yeah. Pete. But yeah, I think the more I look at the race, I'm I'm going to be 4 deep. I'm going to be 137.13. I am going to use that 13.
Oh yeah,
based
I'm
on
glad you said that.
experience.
Let's look at the 13 quickly because I didn't. It's Cox and Pratt, obviously.
Yeah, that's Bergen, the horse we were talking about.
Yeah, $375,000 purchase. So definitely take a look. I'll need to go back and check, but it's probably one just based on connections alone that you have to at least consider putting on especially a horizontal ticket, I would imagine.
Maiden Focus, as usual, has some great info in the chat. Bergen worked with Nash.
Yeah, I put that up before.
And
Bergen's
worked. Thumbs up on Bergen, says Maiden Focus. So there you go. There's the stamp of approval we needed.
I mean, that's what he does. That's why he's called Maiden Focus. So if he doesn't know, nobody does. So definitely go back and look at that horse for anyone in the chat. If you haven't looked yet, go back and check that one out and give some consideration. Make sure you always look at the AEs. All right,
it looks like a tough race to get that narrow, though, doesn't it, Pete?
I mean, that's the thing. Well, the maiden specials are tough enough to begin with. At least it's in the first two, so you can use the doubles a little bit. So it's not, the last leg where you're just sort of screwed at this point. But yeah, I mean, if you look at mine, I had 4 A's, 1 B. So I had basically half the field almost in consideration on the win end. So it's definitely a throw your hands in the air up. And I mean, the odds reflect that. And I mean, like you said, Nick Tamro knows what he's doing, and the odds reflect it when you have a 4-1 morning line favorite. All right, let's move to the third race. We have another maiden special weight going 7 furlongs, purse 100,000, field of 8 this time actually, let's do a quick I guess I did refresh already. So no scratches in this one. Field of 8. The favorite, again, not a huge favorite, nice soft one. Number 4, Take Time to Dream with Velasquez from Falcone. And then you and I are going with, again, we're lockstep on the top end in these first 3 races. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Paisan.
The Italian version of the show. We're in lockstep, which is either really bad or really good for the people listening and for us. So we're both going with the 6, 3 Pokes, a 4-1 Ortiz Santana. Tell me why this one's going to win. Fifth on debut. It's 17-1, going 5.5 on the turf. What do you like here?
And that's the interesting thing. I mean, I think he's probably bred a little more for dirt than turf. I'll start with that a little bit. Who knows? We never know what goes into these decisions. A lot of times with the first start, it's about getting them a race. And if there's a race that doesn't fill, and here's a turf race that's going to fill, they just want the horse is ready to run. And I'm not saying, I have no inside information on what John Ortiz is doing, but I do think in a very small sample, this is a good move for him, Pete. Second time starters among maidens going turf to dirt, 3 for 8. Yep. So again, small sample, but that's 38% for those who did not have Mr. Kravitz for math class and need some help. I think that there's a good opportunity here. Santana, as we know, is aggressive. I think this horse will be a lot closer than 8th out of 12 as he was early last time, right? But you got to deal with Johnny V, who keeps reminding us that he's a Hall of Famer and he ain't washed up. Just calmly, three out of the chute. Yes, I think it was 3. I know he had 3 early in the card. Yeah. Well, he had 3 like in the first 6.
Yep.
So this is an interesting spot. Robbie Falcone, who's a New York guy, basically brings this horse. Has the confidence to bring this horse down. The horse didn't. I'm talking about the 4 now, obviously.
Yeah, I didn't move it up.
Took no money in either start, which is not a great sign. But Johnny V rode him last time and sees fit to come back on him, which is a good sign. So kind of mixed messages there. Similar to the last race, Pete, I'm playing the 6 on what I think is going to be an improvement. And, it's a turf number, so this is on dirt. But just in general, a 70, if he's able to translate the 70 on turf into 70 on dirt, he's going to be right in the thick of this, it looks like, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, because you look at just take a quick scroll through the ones who have run from a pure buyer standpoint, nobody's hit a 70 on the dirt. So if that form holds at all, real quick, I'll go back to the 6, and then I had a quick comment on the 4. Just some of the sire stats on the sire side. So Jimmy Krieg, 17% wins in dirt sprints, better percentage than on turf sprints. So hopefully that leads to an improvement. On the dam side, 24% win, 55% in the money dirt sprints, and 31% win, 69% in the money with 3-year-olds. Has the nice last work on dirt. I think this one, and you see some really quality works on dirt if you look back a little bit too. I think I'm with you on this one. I think this one is maybe a little bit under the radar just because maybe won't take the money because of that turf race, and that's the one there. And I see, hey, RDW 6 is the one to beat. So RDW is in the mix with us. I mean, we like when the ones in the chat agree with us because they usually know a little bit more than we do half the time. The 4 was one to me. I was just a little thrown. I mean, I basically had him as sort of C level or she. We didn't say in he the whole time. We'll take a little drink for that. I think we've probably said
coffee at this point.
I'm on the water so far, but this one didn't show me much. I wasn't even 100% sure why the horse was the favorite. And I just there was nothing I liked, didn't take money, didn't run all that well. I didn't really see many excuses. It's not like it was a huge drop down or something. So I didn't love this one either. So anytime I can try and beat a favorite, I'm going to look forward to that. You have the 7 Insensitive in third. I have him in second. Any specific thoughts? This is another one where we're starting to get to the point. I don't know how long you wait, but you start to get to the point after a certain number of races when they're still a maiden, you start to get a little worried. And I don't know if this one is inching towards that, especially if you're getting the horse at 7-2. What are your thoughts on that in terms of how long a horse is, a maiden and hasn't been less than 25-1 in any races and now is 7-2?
Yeah, which I hate, by the way. I do hate that. Yeah, I mean, I do not think I'll be using this horse on the top line.
Okay.
So when I pick the top 3, a lot of times my third horse is a horse I literally think is going to run, has a chance to be on the board.
Yeah.
But Pete, look at this race. And how many horses are there? There's 8 horses,
8,
okay?
yeah.
Which, thank God, only 8. But if anyone, people love to criticize everything, but if you want to criticize any morning line maker, let alone Nick Tamaro, how would you like to make the morning line for this race?
Unbelievable.
Okay, you have a first-time starter. Okay, hey, he's by Into Mischief. That's great, right? Dale Romans is 7% with first-time starters on dirt. What do you do there? Okay, you got this 4. As you said, you don't want him at 3-1, but Nick is trying to predict what the public's going to do. And Johnny V on the horse, and this is obviously he made the line before he knew Johnny V was going to win 3 races yesterday. But Johnny V on the horse, and that's 62. Any buyer in the 60s looks like it could be competitive here. We talked about the 70, albeit on turf. So my point is, and this is only 8 horses. He'll have 12 horse races like this. So give the morning line makers a break, I guess is the theme of this.
Well, it's funny. I thought I saw something where, or maybe I heard on one of the pods where Nick said he hadn't taken any heat just yet for his morning lines this week, but I'm sure that's not for Nick.
Well, I bet he took it. I bet he took some in the last race yesterday.
Oh, well, there was some with
was it the last race or the race before? There was a horse that was 20-1 went off at 3-1.
Yeah, and then ran like a 20-1 shot. That's where I saw that. Yeah, I saw a conversation on X about that.
But
I had that horse. I had that horse in the mix. Yeah, that's a tough one. There's not a lot.
It's tougher to make the morning line than pick the winners, in my opinion. So
yeah. Well, it's funny, real quick, to go back to the 7, and then we'll go to the next one. 2 back. This one, the last 3 went a route of ground, 2 back, 1 mile and a 16th. Actually ran what you would consider sort of a cool winning potential race. Sat off a bit, got the lead, and then got caught. But next out winner, 82 buyer, and a next out place with a 72 buyer were the ones who beat this horse. But then you come back and then you go 1 mile and an 1/8, and maybe that's just a little too long. Now you're cutting back. That's why this one, I don't like the 7-2, but interested me at least in sort of second, because maybe this last one was just too far. This one just lost to two quality horses who came back and flattered the race. Now you're getting back. And maybe if you can run this race again, or she can run this race again, and then back in the mix. That was my thought on here.
Well, I will say in general, one of my favorite angles is turnbacks at 7 furlongs on the dirt. So
I know you love
that's
that.
another
Yeah,
reason.
I know you love that.
That's But the other thing with this horse, Pete, they might just be searching, right? They went from 6 to a mile. Okay, maybe a little longer. Okay, maybe a little longer. Now let's come back. So if this horse is bet the way that Nick predicts he's bet, I really think you're supposed to be betting.
You're supposed to be bet against. I agree. That makes sense. All right, well, let's move on. We'll move to the fourth. Let's look here. Fourth race, allowance, $120,000 purse, mile and a 16th on the turf. It looks like that horse scratched. That was one of my horses.
Oh, who was scratched? I didn't get. Did we get the third race scratches?
There were none in the third. So
good.
We had none in the
10,
third.
12, 14 in this one.
This is one where you and I differ a bunch, but mine actually, yes, the 10 Beechnut Trophy, the 12 Lily Lane, and the 14 Morg's World are all scratched. So otherwise, we have whatever that is, an 11-horse field. Favorite, number 5, Saffron Moon, Pratt and Chad on the turf. So not overly surprising that they're the favorite. Let's look at the PPs here. You are going with the one, I'm going to say Wallachia is what we're going to go with. You're going to go with the one on top, Wallachia, 7-2 for motion, picking up Gaffleon. What do you like about this one? I like this horse too. I had this one as sort of this was one of my A. So actually, let me switch my banner because I'm going to get rid of my 10 and I'll get rid of the 10 and move the 1 in. So mine will be 5-11-1. So you go ahead for a second.
Similar to the second race, we'll tell people, make sure you go back and take a look at the 13 who has drawn in. The 13 is coming off a huge win at Horseshoe, Indianapolis. He did not run well in either start at Saratoga. Those were his first 2 starts with Mike Maker. But he shipped him to Indy in a much softer spot and ran a big number, and he gets sires. So make sure you take a look at him.
Or her, by the way.
Yeah, God. Jesus, am I good at this? I think, Pete, as I was handicapping this race last night, trying to stay awake, you'll notice that you didn't get my picks till this morning.
Yes.
As I often do at night, I hit a wall, and the wall is undefeated. Some people can I'm going to power through this fatigue, not me.
No, I'm going to sleep.
Anyway, I think this horse, I like Gray Emotion in general, and I'm going to give you 3 stats, Pete.
Love it.
I wanted to make sure I came prepared with stats today doing the show with you. Gray Emotion is 14% overall at Keeneland the last 5 years. That's not bad, right?
Not terrible.
In turf routes, it goes up to 16%.
Okay.
And if you add in allowance races to all of the above, Keeneland, turf routes, allowances, we're now up to 19%.
Okay, we're getting there.
The stats just kept getting better. I love Tyler. No disrespect to Mr. Ruiz, but that is an upgrade going to Tyler. He should get a good trip. Our friend Noah pointed out the other night the rail not always ideal at Keeneland, but I think the race 2 back, Pete, is an indication of how this one might be run. Not necessarily on the lead, but I do think Tyler will be somewhat aggressive and get this horse away from there. And I like her chances.
Well, and you like the progression too. You see the first race of 2023, 7.5 furlongs, optional claimer 25, so much lower, but you just get one of those where, oh my God, you break bad, you're stuck in the back. It's a slow pace. There's not much you can do at that point. You're just going to try and have the horse run a bit. Then you're off all the way until July, stretch the horse back out to a mile and a 16th, gets on the lead and just rolls, which is fantastic and looks great doing it. And then in the last one, you go a mile and an 8, you say, well, let's stretch the horse out, put the horse in a stakes race. We'll see. And then you come up against Full Count Felicia, who runs off by 8. But if you look at this horse, in the last 3 races, 1 by 6, 1 by 2, 1 by 8, 91, 84, 92
Right.
buyer. This is
I
a
just
horse
did that, Pete. Yeah.
Oh, you did this? Yeah.
I
You
just did the same thing. Yeah.
I mean, you look at this and go, and if you throw this race here out, 4 out of 5 in romps. So it's no shame losing to that horse. So this one just feels like, that's why I had this horse on the top line as well. Just feels like is in form, fits at this level, has the win at Keeneland, 3 for 3 in the money with 2 wins at the mile and a 16th. And one stat that you didn't call out for your guy, Graham Motion, 32% wins, 54% in the money, domestic shippers in turf routes to Keeneland in the past 2 years. So firing at 32 when he's bringing his horses into Keeneland in turf routes. So you got to love when you can get that jump, especially for, an everyday 16% trainer. I kind of love that. Let's jump quick. We'll go to the 3 because you have this horse. And where did I have this horse? I had this horse as a B, but this is a little bomber, tough one to figure. Number 3, Mama's Girl, Delgado Santana, came over under Richard Hannon in a grade 3 at 6.5, runs a miserable 10th in like I said, in the grade 3. But if you look back here, was firing in Coronation Stakes, the Guineas against your horse, Tahira, right? You love Tahira, and ran against that horse a few times. All group 1s, group 2s, group 3s, comes here, disappoints at 5-1. Now we're dropping huge class relief compared to what she's been doing. What do you like about this one? You think this one can sort of turn it around against this field?
And the one thing that I thought you would bring up, because this is another one of your areas of expertise, getting Lasix.
Oh, you know what? Yes. And I didn't even have that in the notes, and I noticed it after the fact. First time like Lasix.
30% angle for Delgado. Pete, those races overseas were against very good horses. Didn't run necessarily that well. Didn't run, 4th and a 6th, okay. I'm going to say the reason why I want to give this horse a chance is, I think we talked about it the other night, Kentucky Downs is one of the all-time, some horses love it and some horses hate it places.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm hoping that this might be a case of a horse who just didn't take to it. It was also firm turf. I don't know where they're going to be at today at Keeneland. They were good yesterday. I don't know if they'll be back to firm, but if they were good yesterday, you can maybe assume there'll be at least a smidgen of cut in it, which obviously would be typically good for most Euros. Not Rebels Romance, by the way. Keep an eye on that today.
Yeah.
He wants it firm. So this is a price play for me. This is one of those, that other guy whose name I forget, the reverse tri-key type of horse. If he's 50, he could be all of that 15-1. She could be all that 15-1. I think this is the type of scenario. There is no real stick out. The Chad horse is the favorite. I think he's the favorite because
let's look at her real quick. Yeah, we'll look at her.
I mean, she looks as good as anyone else, but I think she's the favorite because you default to a Chad taking the most money. 23% of Keeneland Chad the last 5 years, 22% in turf routes. He's over 20 in every category. So that's we don't know about the surf. This sort, I'm good at Tampa, romped, good at Saratoga, couldn't finish the deal last time. So I don't, I'm not obviously using the 5, but I'm not lining up, to quote Jonathan Kinchin, I'm not cutting people in line to bet the 5 on the win end.
No.
I like the 1, and the 3 is going to be a horse that I'm going to try to get into the verticals and, maybe a smidgen into the horizontals just to blow up the thing.
I mean, this is one, again, you have a horse here. I mean, it's tough with the Chad and you get Pratt up. And again, I showed it a second ago. Let me bring it up real quick. Only one horse came out of that race, and it was Sister Luann, who came back in for almost $500,000 restricted stakes race, but runs a 92 buyer. So that race has come up, only one out, but has come up at least okay. And if Saffron Moon can run back to either of these 2 races, you're very much squarely in the mix here. But again, like you said, it's nothing that's scaring me or any of these other horses off. I don't think. I think this one's worth a shot. I'd be curious to see if she actually takes any money just from a class perspective. But maybe that 10th, that last line looks terrible, and there's not wins for a long time on there. So maybe that's what scares everyone off. We talked about the one.
Pete, one other thing I'd like to make a point I forgot on the 3, which is I think is worthy of noting.
Yeah, please.
This horse shipped over from Europe and ran on a 2 weeks rest. That is asking a lot.
Oh, I didn't even. You know what? I didn't even notice that.
August 19th at Newbury and September 2nd. So exactly 2 weeks, including the ship over here. Now you're looking at more than a month, closer to 5 weeks off. So that also, not only that, they tell the horse, hey, we got bad news for you. You got to run on 2 weeks rest, and you're going to run up and down hills.
Yeah, and you're going to go to Kentucky Downs, which was a freak show. Yeah, you're running straight in all your other races. Now you're going to this Kentucky Downs freak show.
Take a right, but then you got to take a left. And by the way, I love it. Don't mistake this with. I love playing it. It's great, But I'm just saying, I thought that I had that circled. I thought 2 weeks rest. You just don't see it
especially
that
off the travel like that.
I mean, there's like at least 3 days of quarantine built into the, once you get here. So it's just whatever. The horse might run last at 20-1, and people can be pissed that I wasted
as long as the one wins, then you don't really care.
There you go.
So you see who we ran third in that race. That was your horse from yesterday, Bling, right? You had that horse yesterday.
Bling was a spot play yesterday
on our power picks. So that
Bling, yes, and I'll tell you what, Bling was 3-1, Pete.
Yeah, 3.4. So that was a nice play. And this horse was third.
I did hit that race in a day in which I did a lot of stupid things, Pete. I did hit the win and exacta in the Bling race. So there.
I love it. All right, let me see if anybody in the chat. There's an 8. I see that people have mentioned.
There's a Kyle Roscoe in the chat. He might know where that missing person is.
Oh, there he is, Kyle. Excited to be here in Kentucky. Only astute people listening this morning, I see.
Well,
yes. Well, yeah. Well, maybe not now.
We hate to admit it,
but yes. Here you go, Kyle from Charles B. Good morning and good luck today. Kyle is at Keeneland with our aforementioned host, who we will not name. So there was some love in for Cupid Strike. Cupid Strike looks like the speed picking up Johnny V, like we talked about earlier. I do love a Johnny V on a speed horse. He knows how to get on the lead and back it down. So I thought it was a little bit of a move up. I thought maybe it was just a step behind these. But again, anytime you can get a speed horse on the turf, you never know what can happen. And then the only one I'll mention, I had the 11. I don't remember if there was any in here. Watch This Birdie. Just want to mention because it's a 12-1 shot. One thing I like, this horse is just improving, is definitely sort of moving up a bit, but 3 straight lifetime buyer tops, incremental improvements, so nothing huge. But I just like that maybe is improving, only has 8 races, so a little lightly enough race to where there's still some improvement there. 2 back, this loss here by 2, came back with a next out winner with an 85 buyer. So that loss is flattered already. Correa's 3 for 63, turf roots at Keeneland. That's a little scary, but for 12-1, I think you're getting that baked into the price. So I'll take a shot with that one on my tickets as well. Let's hit the last one so we don't blather on. The races.
Yeah, we're at the hour mark, too. We got to let people get on with their day.
Yeah, the races will be starting by the time we get going. So the last one, allowance optional claiming, 100,000, 110K purse, 6 furlongs on the dirt, field of 10. The favorite, the aforementioned Alder for Cox and Gaffleone. Let's see who we both went with. You went with the 4, Valentine Candy, who makes perfect sense. I went with the 3. Let's talk about the 4 first. Valentine Candy, Asmussen, Santana again. I think you're all over Santana. If he has a good day, I think you might.
frankly, did not have the best ride in the world on Dracone yesterday, which is another story. It didn't matter. He got left, but on the far turn when he was last, he certainly could have stayed inside. But anyway, he had a great ride on him, 21-1 at Belmont. So I'll shut up.
By the way, thank you. Good luck with Shards. We'll make sure we mention that later. But yes, thank you. Tomorrow, Shards is going. Myself, Paul, Howard, and Kyle are all part owners going in the $250,000 Indian Summer, is it, stakes, where I think that's what it's something like that. We will actually be
is it the 10th?
No, it's the maybe the second or it's the third race in the sequence, so it's the third from last, the second from last, it's the third from last, because I think there's 2 gradeds after. But we'll be talking about that on the show tomorrow. But let's talk about Valentine Candy coming out of a very disappointing race in the hopeful. But what do you like here?
Well, I'm going to tell you, Pete. Did you watch it? Did you go back and watch that race?
I did. I did. I don't remember if I focused.
Well, let's start with the first race. Let's start with the first race. If you go back and watch the first race, this horse was 2 lengths in front by the time the gate finished opening. If you have the
let's bring it up.
Just take a look at how well this horse broke. He's right in the middle of the pack. He's the post position 5.
Oh my God, like a shot. Yeah.
Is that unbelievable?
That's
so, and now he hangs on. He went 22 flat, 45-4, and it's this horse is going to. This is a Chad Brown Klarovich horse chasing him, who's going to give way, I believe, to this Rapoli. Right? I think that's a Rapoli on the outside. But I mean, he wins. Yeah,
he wins relatively comfortably. Yeah, it was really comfortable.
So now let's start in the hopeful, Pete. Very, very quick pace. You know what? Good luck to Nutella Fella and Contessa and my friend Junior. Yeah. I think this race is a one-off. If you watch the break of this race, this is the opposite. Nutella Fella breaks 5 lengths. See the horse in last by 3 lengths? That horse is going to win this race easily. So that'll tell you how this race was run. The 9 is Valentine Candy, who you'll see is sitting right on top of this 44-4 half mile, and pretty wide, 4 or 5 paths wide. Yep. And yes, at some point he's going to say, "Okay, I've had enough of this. I'm
packing it in."
But you know what? It's a different circumstance today. He certainly shouldn't get that wide of a trip. He broke okay last time, and I think the reason why he wasn't even closer to the lead is just the race was so fast. Yeah. Right. And so now he's it doesn't really matter here. But the race just if you look at the order of finish, look at the chart. Pull up the chart on that race. Okay.
So we got the speed here.
So Valentine Candy was on the pace.
Just Steel faded to 7.
Just Steel was on the pace, ran 7. Yeah, you know what I'm getting at, right?
Yo-Yo Candy dropped to 10th.
Mission Beach was sitting right on top of the pace, 5th. So the race, this I think is a totally different. Now, I think he's the speed of the speed, but the 3 ran huge last time. The 2 went to the lead last time. It's the Ravelli, so we know that this horse will be overbet because Kyle and Howard will be genuflecting to Ravelli in the paddock and making the plays. I like Ravelli. I'm just trying to have fun with those guys. But with the Chicago Mafia in town, that horse will be overbet. But Larry spots this horse very well. The 1 has some
real quick on the 2, since I don't know if we'll talk about him again. Ravelli 1 for 16 shipping into Keeneland. So maybe we hope that horse takes some money. But
the 1 has got speed, but if the 4 is, as I suspect, the speed of the speed, then I think I really like it. Hall is a horse some people are talking about. Rhyme schemes look really good, but so far 4 horses have come back to run out of the Saratoga Special. I don't believe any have hit the board. None of them have. Certainly none have.
No, won. It was very disappointing. Yeah, Rhyme schemes.
So I like the 4 a lot. I like the 4 a lot in this race.
Beautiful. I like to hear that. And I have the 4 and third, so I'm with you. It was more of a wait and see. I don't really, there was no reason I didn't like the horse. I mean, I liked everything that you said. This could just be a toss of a race, hot pace. You never know what's going to happen. This regression from like an 85 to a 52, if you're looking just at a buyer standpoint, something's odd there because that, you're not going to drop that bad unless you're just part of a pace and you just pack it in. So we talked about the 4, we talked about the 1. Let's talk about Alder real quick, the 2-1 favorite, a Godolphin horse, Cox Gaffleon. Like we said, Honky Tonk Highway was a horse that you liked in whichever race, that one of the earlier races in this sequence, dominated that race after being a non-starter on debut. You got to think is going to be a pretty big favorite here. But, I mean, you have to look at this horse as an A-level horse, though, I assume, right?
Without question, yes. And and I mentioned the other horses who have speed, and I see a couple of folks in the chat, Charles B. and someone else like the 2 to go to the lead. So, if this race, similar to the Hopeful, falls apart in any way, shape, or form, then the 3 becomes, you would think the 3 becomes really, really formidable.
Yeah.
But I like the horse coming off the maiden win and then another race as opposed to strictly coming off the maiden win. So I'm going to and Pete, I know you're a time form. Did you look at the time form pace figures for the Hopeful? Did you see the first?
Yeah.
See the first one? 140, Pete.
140. Unbelievable.
2-year-olds. 140 for 2-year-olds, Pete.
and there was 4 of them cutting it too. So there's 4 of them trying to do that. So that makes no sense. I mean, I'm with you. You got off just a pace percent. You would actually hope that this 9th by 10 would maybe float these odds up a bit, especially because Alder was so impressive first out. But I'll be curious to see what the odds are between these 2 later. A couple quick stats on Alder that we talked about that are very flattering. Brad Cox, 11 for 20 wins, 14 for 20 in the money. Oh, I guess I had second time. So I guess we're considering this a second time starter, or it's a hard one, but maiden winner last out in allowance on dirt in the past year, so he's killing it.
What happened in that race, Pete? I know it would be nice to click on the replay, but because Churchill is not that, don't get me started. Okay, this ongoing pissing.
Oh, here we go.
Churchill in the racing form is terrible for racing fans everywhere. That we can't just click on the replay like we can for goddamn every other track. But anyway, I digress.
Alder appeared to be tangled in the gate, unseated his rider following Stewart's inquiry ruling the start. Alder was declared a non-starter.
Yeah, so this is a second-time start. You're right.
This is a second-time start. So that and then here's the funny one: switching to Gaffleon, jockey changed to Tyler in the past 7 races, 6 for 7 wins, 7 for 7 in the money. Again, that's pure. That's got to be pure coincidence, but still, those 2 together off a jockey switch has been just cold money. So. And I like the fact that this horse can sit off because, like you said, especially if you just go from a time form standpoint, the 1 is a 113, the 2 is a 117. Valentine Candy looks like will be speed for sure. Let me see if there's any more out here. I don't know if there's any more. No, there's no more out there, but there's enough speed in here. And I think the 3 is tactical enough to sit off and maybe be able to pounce and take advantage of that. Let me see. I had the 9 Hall, who we actually talked about a little bit. We talked about, I like this horse. I know what you mean. That race came back garbage.
Ryan could move forward.
That was my thing. Ryan's schemes is really good, though. I like the 260K. Army Mule horses have been really good. Picks up Saez. Now we're at sort of maybe a level where I think the horses at this level are a little bit closer to each other. And then what I liked was that he's the top time form late pace. So this is the one coming off the pace if it does really heat up. And maybe you get a Nutella fella kind of run from a horse like Hall here if all hell breaks loose up front again. We hope that doesn't happen for some of our other horses. But
I'll tell you, Pete, it does look like all the speed is in the inside.
It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's what I mean. So if these 4...
Louis Saez could really, really benefit from Irad staying in New York. It seems like he's on several horses that Irad would be riding if he were at Keeneland. So
yes, yeah.
And it's great to see Louis back, by the way. One of the great jockeys and great guys. And, these guys are so damn tough. And he had that broken wrist at Saratoga. He came back yesterday, and I don't know if he had any wins. I know he was on the board a few times.
No, he did. I thought he won one of the big ones.
Oh, he won the damn Alcibiades.
That's right. I thought it was one of the
Yeah, I blocked it out because he beat me. I try to do that. Hey, Pete, you know what? You know why this is going to be a great day, Pete?
Why?
I don't know. Can I show this? I don't know if this is going to show up. You know what that is a picture of? That's like a picture of my guy Cody holding his Breeders' Cup tickets, which came in the mail today.
Oh my God, that's awesome!
How's that?
That is
just
fantastic.
Got that from Kelly Dorman, and I said, Kelly, you have made this an awesome day.
If my that's guy not a way Cody, to start the day, I don't know what is, right?
No matter what happens today, this is going to be a good day. I'm going to go do some work on the book today. I'm so fired up.
That's a good thing. Get the emotions stirred up. I see you getting a little choked up there. Emotions get stirred up. Hopefully that brings you some luck. I mean, again, it puts everything in perspective, which we don't talk that much about, only on the Cody side. Although that race is getting more and more interesting. We saw Practical move with a nice race yesterday. It seems like he's illogical for the Breeders' Cup Mile. I don't think he's meant to go the 1.25 miles in the Classic. So that race
looks like Saudi Crown is going to go to the Classic, huh?
That was a surprise to me. Yeah, I thought maybe.
I don't know, Pete. You better be careful of that horse.
Oh, no. I don't mean a surprise. I don't think he'll do well. I just thought maybe they would go a little bit more conservative and go the mile route. But apparently.
I watched those guys celebrate after the Pennsylvania Derby, Pete, and they're 1 year into racing in the U.S., these guys from Saudi Arabia. That's true. They want to do well, and they want to run in the Saudi Cup in January on their home turf, and they're going to swing. I'm not surprised they're going to swing for the fences. And I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to give that horse a long look. He's got to get 1.25 miles, but here's a news flash. They all have to get 1.25 miles.
They all have to get it. And it's
not
Arcangelo
certainly has proven that's not going to be an issue. But anyway, we digress.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
But the dirt mile, Pete, seems to be getting slower, if you know what I'm saying. I'm seeing a lot of online chatter of that it's going to be a big pace disadvantage for my guy, which I'm fine with. That could be true, and it could hamper him, but I'm all about getting him up to like 8-5 with that type of talk, and then I'll do something very irrational.
Hey, that'll be your Breeders' Cup betting challenge. You'll be in that. You can use some of that money. You can try and win the whole thing. I mean, wouldn't it be great if the thing that vaults you to the top of the BCBC is a huge bet on Cody's Wish? How would that be? I think
it's going to be a lot of races. It's going to be interesting, Pete, where they slot that race, because it won't be a great race. It was the 5th race last year. It was the first race that NBC, I think, had on. They almost missed that. They had to squeeze in that tremendous feature that they won an Eclipse Award for. Yeah. So you would think it might be earlier, but, they want to tell the story again. So
it's a good TV
I'm thinking
story.
It's going to be around, 7-ish, maybe 7th race-ish.
Well, and the thing is, there's and we'll talk about this. We don't want to digress too much, but there's not a ton of big name horses this year. There's no superstars really. So Cody's Wish, if for no other reason, for the story itself and the narrative is one that just it's something to jump out on. Yeah, because we just don't have that. Point. Between him and Arcangelo, because Arcangelo has the natural Jenna Antonucci side with the female trainer. Those are the two. There's not a lot else to really latch on to, just from a narrative standpoint. And you're a writer. You understand. I mean, you understand that better than anybody.
On Friday, you're going to have Carson's Run named after a young man who has the same genetic. What are the odds on this, Pete?
That's crazy.
Carson's Run is named after, I think he's older. I think he's in his 20s, maybe 30s, but same syndrome as Cody. And that's to show how rare that syndrome is, at Cincinnati Children's Hospital, where it's just rated the top one in the country, by the way, they can expect approximately 1 case a year.
Oh my God, that's crazy. They should, if they were smart, maybe they would do a double, a 2-day double of those two races. You can do that as sort of as sort of a support.
That's called the manual parlay, Pete.
That's true. That is true. That's not as easy to play, though. Yeah, it's not
you
as
gotta have
obvious.
discipline.
Yes. All right. Well, I think we've blathered on long enough, but thank you, everyone. We had a ton of people in the chat. Always great conversation. Yes. Thank you very much. Again, come back tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Oh, look at that. Did I do that because I did a thumbs up? There was a little bubble there. Did you see that? Join us again, myself and Charlie Freeman, tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. We are going to be discussing the late pick 5 at Keeneland, obviously. And again, on Thursday, we covered the late pick 5 today. If you need some last minute handicapping thoughts, myself, Paul, Howard, and Caleb Keller from FanDuel. So it was a great crew, great conversation. Check that out as well. Otherwise, I know this isn't usually my saying, but for everyone listening, it's myself, Pete Visco, for Paul Halloran, everybody today, crush your bets. Is that what we're supposed to say?
Oh, look at that thumb, Pete.
That's what I'm saying. From? When you do the thumbs up, where the hell did that start? That's
not
new.
For me. Not for me. You see, that's the host. That's only for the host.
Just magical host computer here. But again, for myself, Paul, thanks everybody. For sure. Please crush your bets. Join us tomorrow. Good luck at Keeneland, everyone. Thanks again. Take care. Bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.